Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Cimarron Firearms 1911. It's supposed to be a World War I style replica. And there are a couple of reviews out there that refer to them as a near perfect World War I 1911 replica. And it's not. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. I have a brand new one in the box. I also have one that I have had for a little over a year now. Just to give you an idea of what's going on. But all I'm going to be focusing on is how accurate their portrayal of a World War I 1911 is. And I do have an actual World War I 1911. It's currently sitting on a box just off of camera, right up above my head. Yay, right there. Now, I might pull it down if I decide to, but I got a couple of other things here to compare to. But here is the Cimarron Firearms M1911 replica. It comes in a standard clamshell case. It does have the Cimarron logo imprinted on it. And if they'll focus on that, that would be great. But Cimarron Firearms Code 1911, 5-inch 45 ACP, parkerized. Let's go ahead, open it up. And there's your first glance. We have a little certificate of accuracy, and it works, yay. Feels like it's got 2 casings in there, so they gave it 2 shots. This actually verifies what I have long suspected. It says Armscore Precision International. It says this says verified what I've long suspected, which is that this Cimarron 1911 is made by Armscore. I based that first time I picked one up. I was like, this is exactly like a Rock Island. It's clearly made on the same machines by the same people. This verifies that. I have one magazine here. Looks like Mech Gar. This is not what my other one came with. It's an 8-round magazine, big plastic base pad. And a pistol in plastic. Okay. And this is what we're looking at. Big, fancy 1911 style pistol. Has a empty chamber flag. Yay. Got the little stop label. And another magazine. Exactly the same as the first one. Okay. Now here, what we're looking at. Let's see if I can get light better adjusted. Okay. Here's what we're looking at. 1911 style pistol. Now, for anybody who has ever handled a real pre-22 style 1911, you're going to notice some immediate differences. If you're not real big into knowing all the differences, you might think, this is a pretty decent 1911. Now it is a Rock Island. It even says right here on the model number M1911A1FS. Some of you may remember that model as being a Model 9 name given to the standard Rock Island Armory. M1911A1FS. This right here is actually my first pistol I ever bought on my 21st birthday. Rock Island Armory M1911A1FS. This is bone stock except for the grips, and I have an ambidextrous safety because I carry left-handed upon occasion. But other than that, these guns are pretty much identical. And when I say pretty much identical, I mean they are identical. There is a few things that separate this from a standard Rock Island Armory, and we're going to go over those. First, the things they did right. The frame. This is an unscalloped frame. The M1911, manufactured from 1911 through 1921, had an unscalloped frame. In 1922, they started the 1911A1, and they have a scallop right here where your finger goes. So, finger relief cut. Basically, every 1911 made since then is on an A1 frame, a scalloped frame. This frame is exactly identical, except it is not scalloped. So this is a 1911 frame. The mainspring housing is correct. It is smooth, flat, and has a lanyard ring. That is a correct World War I style M1911 mainspring housing. It is different from the one that comes on the Rock Island Armory, which is flat and ribbed, and different from the A1, which was ribbed and bulged. Now, at that point, everything is wrong. Everything about this pistol is wrong. Now, I'm not going to delve too much into the internals. This uses standard, quote-unquote, Series 70 internals. Truth is, Series 70 internals means nothing, because the Series 70 pistol, pre-Series 70 Colt, and then a Series 70 Colt, the only real difference was the barrel bushing. And then they got rid of that 70 style barrel bushing, but they're still Series 70 internals, even though the internals never actually changed. So this is fairly confident. All of the internal components are interchangeable with a stock World War I 1911. They didn't really change much. Manufacturing changed a little bit, better materials, slight shape changes. The firing pin's not going to be as pointy. But internals, not such a huge difference. Now the externals, that's where things get iffy. I'm going to go ahead and grab the camera and get in close so you can see what we're talking about here. Okay, so here is the Cimarron 1911. Now, as you can see, as I was saying earlier, is an unscalloped frame as opposed to a scalloped frame. The grip is a reasonable facsimile of what you would find on World War I style 1911. It is not actually a replica of any particular make. People who really know what they're doing can actually go through here and count the checkers and tell you which company made them. This one doesn't actually comply with any of those, so it's not a replica, but it is a reasonable facsimile. Now, the trigger on this is a standard Rock Island trigger. It's short and ribbed. Just like the one on here. It's short and ribbed. Okay. I have no complaints with the mag release. It is a A1 style mag release, but the only way you will ever tell that is by taking it out and looking at the way it functions. The way it operates is the same, the way it looks is the same, but the internal components on it are slightly different. I'm not going to throw a fit about that. The slide release, reasonable. I got no issues with that. However, this safety is what I like to call a lotus leaf safety. It is fairly typical on most GI style 1911s. The hammer is a narrow and it's actually checkered rather than grooved, but it's a narrow hammer. And the grip safety is an A1 style long tang grip safety. And that's the lower. Now the upper, we're going to talk about the slide. This radius cut right here, this is radius angled cut. A 1911 should actually have a ball cut, so the angle is slightly different. The roll marks are a reasonable facsimile. They're basically the same as a colt. They just replaced the rampant colt with a Cimarron pony. The serrations are too far forward. And my biggest complaint is the ejection port. This ejection port, this is an improved ejection port. Comes way down here. It shouldn't come nowhere near that far down. Now, here we have another Cimarron replica 1911 that I have modified. It's the same frame, it's the same mainspring housing. Most of the, all the internal parts are the same. It's the same mag release, the same slide release, but the trigger, you'll notice, is long and smooth faced. The safety is a short stud safety. The grip safety is short tang. I'll give you a quick little side by side here so you can see the difference. And the hammer is wide spur checkered hammer. And this slide is not the Cimarron slide. It is a more correct slide. It's a 1913 pattern slide. And you'll notice on this cut, has a much sharper turn there. It's a ball cut. This is a radius cut. You'll notice the serrations are farther back. And I also replaced the Cimarron sights with early style World War I M1911 sights, also known as tombstone sights. Now, if you look on this side, you will see the major difference between an improved ejection port and a traditional ejection port. There's a huge difference between that and that. So, it is not a near perfect replica. They got the frame right, they got the grips right, they got the mainspring housing right, the roll marks are reasonable facsimile. The slide release and the mag release are reasonable, but it's just made with off-the-shelf Rock Island Armory parts. If you want a true World War I style 1911, you're going to have to replace the trigger, the safety, the grip safety, which nobody currently makes a short tang grip safety. I may do a video later on how to modify a GI long tang safety into a short one. You'll have to replace the hammer. If you want to go the extra mile, you'll have to replace the slide.